Welcome to vibrant Malaysia. Strategically located in the heart of Asia with links to all parts of the world. Headed by a constitutional monarch. Governed by parliamentary democracy, where general elections are held every 5 years. The country enjoys decades of stability with the benefits of a broad-based economy powered by the private sector and a pro-business government. It's always summer in Malaysia, a country blessed with abundant natural resources and more. While rapidly developing, we continue to preserve our land, environment, heritage and values. They are all here in Malaysia, a country of many colors, races and cultures. Selamat datang. Welcome to Malaysia. Malaysia has transformed from a country dependent on agriculture and primary commodities to an export-driven economy, spurred by high technology, knowledge-based and capital-intensive industries toward a high-income nation. Many international corporations have made Malaysia their highly competitive offshore base. To date, more than 5,000 international companies from over 80 countries have established their regional and global operations in Malaysia. Companies in the manufacturing and services sectors continue to expand and diversify their operations. The combination of a stable political environment and a government that is responsive to private sector needs and supports and facilitates business. Malaysia's developed infrastructure has provided the requisite competitiveness to the business community. The Kuala Lumpur International Airports provide excellent facilities. The airports can accommodate up to 70 million passengers. And more than 12 million tons of cargo per year. In addition, 6 other international airports are strategically located to serve the regional needs. And the 7 major ports ensure the efficient movement of cargo as well as facilitate international trade. The improved rail system and the network of expressways ensure easy access to and from airports, seaports and urban centers. The government ensures that energy needs are adequately met, while broadcasting and telecommunications requirements are being served by the latest digital and fiber optics technology. For banking and financial services, local and foreign banks offer comprehensive and competitive packages. $11 million trainable and educated Malaysians support industry and trade, and annually about 250,000 young Malaysians enter the workforce. Many English language-based colleges, universities, technical and vocational institutions ensure the continuous supply of manpower needs. Malaysia's geographical location makes the country a strategic base for exports to the Asia-Pacific markets. Malaysia provides access to not only the ASEAN market, with a population of 600 million, but to a market of more than 3 billion people created by the various trading arrangements with the world's most vibrant nations. Living in Malaysia. But doing business in Malaysia is not all work. The country offers good living in the midst of a clean and green environment. Modern housing, international schools, healthcare of international standards. Add to that the warmth and hospitality of Malaysians. Things to do during leisure. Great food everywhere. Fun places to be. Make Malaysia a home away from home. Selamat datang. Welcome to Malaysia, your profit center in Asia.
Some people are calling this the new normal, but there's nothing normal about it. As the world's businesses begin to reopen, the question is, what can we learn from this? Perhaps today isn't a restart, it's a rethink. A time to take the things that are working and apply them to the new jobs that need to get done. Today, businesses are staying open in a world that feels closed. With the IBM Cloud, retailers can keep systems up as millions of orders move online. Data is being protected against new security risks. So at leading hospitals, private information can stay private, even while doctors are caring for patients from home. Businesses are being more responsive. With the help of scalable solutions on the IBM Cloud, financial advisors can process bank transfers remotely, securely. Today, supply chains are getting more intelligent, helping ship our produce, stock our stores, and fill our tables. Remote work is working smarter with IBM Watson, helping employees stay more productive and making parents even more proud. Customers are getting answers faster. With Watson Assistant, wait times are being cut from hours down to minutes, and companies are managing millions of calls, texts, and chats. Today, we are speeding our research and our recovery with help from all the developers who are answering the call. Today, we are rethinking how business moves forward, how the world moves forward. So let's get to it. Let's put smart to work.
certainty for where it's most vital. That's the promise of EcoStruxure Micro Data Center from Schneider Electric. The support you need when there's no room for downtime.
Hi everyone, good morning to all of you and thanks for tuning in. It's me again, Myra from Star Media Group's award-winning Rage Investigative Journalism team. We have come to the final session of CXO 2020 and today's theme is Sustainability in the Age of Disruption. If you did not join us in the last 3 days, welcome to Star Media Group CXO 2020. I'm your host for this last day of the 4-day live virtual conference. And we hope you and your family and friends continue to stay well, innovative and disruptive as you progress into the next normal. For all of you who are currently watching this program on WebEx, Facebook, and YouTube, thank you for joining us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here comes one of my most favorite parts of the program. I say that every day, but it's still true. I love giving out prizes. The announcement of the special prize draw winners of yesterday's session. Yes, you all heard it right. For those of you who have just joined us, all you need to do is to join us here on WebEx, stay with us until the end of the program each day, and you will stand a chance to win any of these exciting prizes. Now, let's see who are the winners of yesterday's session. So, the Skull Candy wireless headphone goes to Wong Jing Yao. The Google Home Mini goes to Janice Hong. The Sony portable Bluetooth speaker goes to Julian Tam. The Razer Hammerhead wireless earbuds goes to Mazrul Shah. All right. Clapping from at home. Congratulations to all the winners. Our events crew will be contacting you separately at the end of CXO 2020 later this afternoon at your registered email or mobile number for the arrangement. Now, we are about to start today's program, and it's something a little bit different, right? So we've addressed all the cool stuff in the last 3 days, but for all the potential that innovation offers in IR 4.0, 5.0, 6.0, 7.0, and so on and so forth, we are also putting greater and much greater stress onto the earth and the industries, plus its workforce, and also not ignoring the society either. Anchored by our knowledge partner PwC, let's learn more about balancing the acceleration of disruptive innovation with continuous creation of sustainable future for all. There will also be a special presentation by Proton, followed with a panel discussion where a panel of sustainability leaders will discuss and share insights on extending business lifespan and finding opportunities amidst the speed of industrial revolution. To learn more about our conference program and our speaker's profile, you may scan the QR code at the top right of your screen or visit bit.ly/star STARCXO2020. Okay, so as usual, a few housekeeping matters before we kick off. For those who are just joining us, please be patient if you experience any technical glitches. This is a live online event and everyone dials in from different internet bandwidths and devices. For WebEx participants, your microphone and video cam are turned off by default, but you can chat with our events crew directly if you need any assistance or email us at events@thestar.com.my. If you have any questions for our speakers, please post it in the chat box or in the comment section below if you're on Facebook or on YouTube. Lastly, and most importantly, please remember to engage, learn, and enjoy. I am very honored to introduce our final keynote speaker of CXO 2020. He has led 200 corporate and developmental sustainability engagements across Southeast Asia. Andrew Chan is a key figure in developing the corporate sustainability agenda across the region, and he currently leads sustainability and climate change practice in PwC's Southeast Asian Consulting Services. To end CXO 2020 on a high note, Andrew will share with us how by adopting sustainability, it has enabled businesses to innovate their products and services, value chain and operation models, and in the process, increased business value to its owners and to society. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker, Andrew Chan.
Good morning, everyone. Very pleased to be with you. Thank you, Myra, for the kind introductions, and congratulations to the staff for organizing this conference. This certainly is a new experience for me, doing this digitally as well, but we're always willing to learn new things. So what I wanted to share with you was just some initial views around how innovation and the sustainability agenda link together. And this is more to teeing up the conversation that we have shortly with our panelists. So again, if you have questions that, whether directly for myself or for our panelists that arise from some of the ideas that I'm sharing with you now, feel free to log those on in the questions, and we'll get to them as best we can once we get to the panel session. So just to start off with sustainability, a lot of has been talked about sustainability over the past decade or more in Malaysia. And what we're seeing increasingly are companies coming out innovating around sustainable products and services. Some global examples to start with. For example, Clorox, existing brand, very well established, but decided to launch a new sub-brand called Greenworks to capture the emerging market that wanted more sustainable chemicals, chemical-free into their cleaning products. Generated an awful lot of revenue for Clorox and actually helped revive the company more. As we all know, electric cars, for example, Tesla, new entrant into the space. So it's not just about innovating existing businesses, but potential for creating new sectors. And we also hear talk about potentially the third national car in Malaysia, which would be creating new sub-industries for Malaysia as well. However, it's not all rosy. Sustainability has positives, but it also has negatives and pressures that are put onto companies. For example, extra scrutiny around labor standards, environmental performance. Investors and finance providers are increasingly looking at companies and how are they impacting the environment and the society around them as well. So innovation can come in the form of looking for business enhancements or differentiation, but also protecting the business as well. And what is driving all these changes? In PwC, we use a framework called ADAPT. And ADAPT basically captures some of the key megatrends globally, talking about asymmetry in the world, talking about disruption, the age demographics, polarization, whether it's north-south, whether it's rural, urban, but increasing polarization, and the trust agenda. These are five big forces that we feel are shaping the world as we know it today. And these map very closely onto sustainability, where typically we look at environmental issues, we look at social issues, and we look at governance issues, which you could say then maps to trust. Social issues very clearly highlighted through asymmetry, age, and then we see disruption coming through not only in the environment space, but also polarization is impacting. So why do companies respond to the sustainability agenda? So typically we see this maturity that companies follow. It's by no means linear, but again, typical evolution. We see companies responding first to sustainability from a compliance and a risk basis. Especially us in Southeast Asia, I think we're a very compliant bunch. So if the regulator tells us we need to do something, we do it. So typically that's the response we have first from companies, is responding to compliance requirements. And that is protecting the company, it's protecting the brand, and it's protecting you from potential fines and damage to reputation. Additionally, though, to highlight where you actually do manage your risks better, some companies are increasingly accessing lower cost of capital. So finance providers are increasingly looking at environmental and social performance of the companies that they're lending to or investing in, and giving better rates to those that are more sustainable. They perceive those more sustainable companies to be lower risk in their portfolio. And the next stage of evolution is typically operational effectiveness, so where companies are looking at cost savings. This could be in the form of, for example, reduced energy usage. It could be in the form of reduced wastage of raw materials, reduction in disposal costs. So we like to help our clients move very quickly to operational effectiveness because it helps generate savings, and the ROI is typically fairly quick. And then we move into strategic advantage, where, as you've seen from some of the examples I highlighted, you can get into product innovation, you can get into service innovation, you can further differentiate your brand, you can open up new customer channels and attract different audience that you may not have thought of before. So sustainability, one of the telecommunications companies in South Korea, for example, when it applied the mega trends, so for example, they were looking at age and the aging population in Korea, they thought, hold on, there is no one who actually has a telco service product specifically for the aged population. We typically have the youth market, we have the business market, but we don't have the aged market. So they actually came up with a specific product targeted at the aged population and did very well. I think they called it the Silverhead program. So just moving on to local examples, how have we seen companies locally respond? Well, I have to say congratulations to Malaysia, where we're not laggards in this area. We're holding our own by also innovating when it comes to sustainability responses. For example, one of the property developers looked at, again, the aging trend, but also how do Malaysians as a society live and network with each other. We tend to look after our parents, our grandparents, etc. So looking at this trend, this property developer said, actually, we'll put ensuite rooms for parents if they want to move in with their children, so that we don't have to go through the expense of installing elevators. So it makes it more accessible. Let's build that into the design phase so that, again, your aging parents don't have to negotiate flights of stairs. They're on the ground floor and they still have their private area. In terms of a new business setup, we've seen social enterprises increase in Malaysia. For example, there are many dealing with trying to preserve the heritage and culture, especially of our indigenous and rural population and the handicrafts. And some of those are actually doing very, very well and recognized in global circles. From a government perspective, we've also seen innovation, for example, green technology and green technology financing. The government issued incentives to stimulate the growth of the green technology sector and put in place financing mechanisms to encourage the growth of that sector. So just to highlight, the response can be at the corporate level, but the response can also be at the government public sector level as well. And what does this really mean for companies when we talk about responding, when we talk about innovating? So yes, you may be able to come up with additional products, but what does that really mean for you as a company? Well, I mentioned to you earlier that finance providers are increasingly looking at sustainable traits and how are you performing. Let's look at why that's the case. So highlighted here on the left side, you see some analysis over a 40-year period of the S&P 500 market value. And 40 years ago, you can see the value of the S&P 500, over 80% was made up of tangible assets. So buildings, machinery, and equipment, but things that you would see sitting on your balance sheet. But fast forward to 40 years' time, that ratio has flipped. So now over 80% of value of S&P 500 is from intangibles. And what makes up intangibles? Well, brand is a big component of that, but also quality of governance, employee engagement, customer satisfaction, environmental performance, community relationships, health and safety performance. So you can see a lot of factors are now going into what we call intangible, and this is why there's increasing focus on disclosures when it comes to sustainability, because they're seen to impact the value of a company. So whether you're an investor trying to seek better returns, as illustrated by the chart on the right, which is from Bursa FTSE for Good, you can see that the sustainability index outperformed by 4%. So whether you're an investor seeking better returns or you're a bank and lending money and looking to protect the risk to your loan book more, sustainability performance is increasingly relevant. Okay. And how do you go about responding to sustainability? So it's all very nice saying, yes, you can innovate, but we all know that innovation is not necessarily easy to do, and you need to have a formal process and system in place to encourage good innovation in the company and not leave it to chance. But how do you respond to sustainability in a more structured manner to be able to engage, whether it's investors or other finance providers or even your broader stakeholders? Well, we use a very simple framework to help guide responses by companies. We talk about the linkage between your sustainability strategy and your corporate strategy. Increasingly, companies are developing a sustainability strategy that supports their corporate strategy. But what we're seeing leading edge companies do is say, actually, there is no difference between a corporate strategy and a sustainability strategy. It is one strategy about value creation. So some companies that we're working with across the Southeast Asia region are already looking from that perspective to say, it is one strategy to do with how do I create value overall. And it's not necessarily a profit maximization strategy, but they're looking at a value optimization strategy. So how do we deliver good sustained benefits, not only to our shareholders and investors, but also in balance with environmental and social returns as well. And then once you've defined that strategy, you can look at the sustainability initiatives that you have in place. Do they support the delivery of your sustainability strategy? What we find across this Southeast Asia region is that we have a lot of initiatives already when it comes to sustainability, but a lot of that is what we would call the CSR or the philanthropy space. It is contributing potentially to environmental initiatives or communities, but it's more to do with giving money or giving assistance without really linking back into the business strategy. So that's actually the differentiation. We talk about sustainability versus CSR or philanthropy. Sustainability actually links back to the business outcomes as well as delivering environmental and social returns. And to manage all this constructively, do you have a robust set of sustainability measures? These are relevant not only to measure the performance that you have and are you addressing the strategy that you focused on, but these are the metrics typically that your finance providers, that your additional stakeholders, whether it's NGOs or potential employees or business partners, want to look at some of your metrics to understand how are you really performing. Now these metrics, just to highlight to you, again, the basic level of metrics is just talking about the inputs and the outputs. So how much money are we spending or how much time are we spending? What resource are we donating? Those are typically what we'd call inputs. Outputs would be directly what is the input used for? So are we contributing to 5 schools, for example? Are we contributing to buying more energy efficient equipment? So that's what we would call output. But again, the trend increasingly by stakeholders, they want to see what is the impact of doing this. Okay, so if you're donating money to schools, well, what is the impact of that? Yes, you said you've covered 10 schools, but what has that enabled the schools to do? What has it impacted the school children? Does it mean the average grades are better? Does it mean there's more moving on to tertiary education? So impact measurement is the increasing trend as well, that stakeholders increasingly want to see companies disclosing that. And then we look at how do you structure your company to support the delivery of your strategy and management of the sustainability agenda overall. So this encompasses the governance structure in your organization. Do you have a dedicated person, or do you have a dedicated role looking at sustainability and implementing it across the organization? What is the reporting line? Does this go up to the board? Is there a terms of reference for the board to say formally that the board should be looking at and managing sustainability as well? People, do you have the right capability in the organization? Do you have training, education programs? Should you be reaching out to your key suppliers and business partners to also educate them around what you've committed to and how they can support you to deliver the outcomes? Again, as we get into more and more complex issues, as you can see from the ADAPT framework, it is more than just one single company, one single government can solve by themselves. There is a strong encouragement to actually partner to deliver meaningful impacts. And then at the end of the day, when you capture all this information, stakeholders want to see the information. So how are you reporting? How are you structuring your report? And how are you highlighting that the data that you're sharing is accurate, trustworthy? So where does the role of potentially your internal audit team or even a third-party assurance provider? It may not be an auditor. It could also be the community themselves confirming that you have provided support to them. It could be an NGO verifying that you've been working with them to deliver on certain environmental issues as well. So how do you give assurance and comfort that the data that you're presenting is actually accurate and verified? So that's a fairly simple framework. It can be used as a checklist to say, do we have these things in place? And although I started at the top and worked down, by no means do you have to start at the top. You can start at the bottom, you can start at the middle. There is actually no right or wrong answer. This is actually just a holistic framework for you to consider, are we managing our sustainability response holistically? And putting this framework in place also gives you more ability to proactively manage the innovation process when it comes to dealing with sustainability impacts and the responses that you have. And just to leave you with a few final thoughts, I've been doing sustainability for a long time. I set up the sustainability practice in PwC for the Southeast Asia region around about 2007. And this is a journey we've all come on together, but we hear constant concerns, what I would call myths around sustainability. One of those is that sustainability actually costs me money. We would like to debunk that. We actually say sustainability actually saves you money, because if you remember my three-phase diagram talking about compliance, operational efficiency, and revenue or differentiation, these are all about value adding to the company. Now, in terms of a cash flow, maybe there's some upfront investment, but the return is fairly quick. So sustainability as a whole should not be costing you more money, but it should actually be able to generate better returns to your company. Again, which is why investors, finance providers are looking at sustainability performance to assess whether it's your credit rating or whether to assess how much they think your business performance can actually increase. So that also links to the second point to say investors and customers are not interested. Why should we respond to sustainability unless the regulators tell us we need to? Hopefully you stay on for our panel session later. We have Luan from CIMB who can share the finance provider perspective, but also our other panelists from Holstein Milk Company and Sime Darby Plantation can also share what are they hearing from investors and finance providers. And they'll share that increasingly they're asking for sustainability data before they decide to unlock the financing. And then the final one is that actually we need sustainability specialists to respond, and there's not many in the country, let alone Southeast Asia region. That is a correct point. It is an area where more and more people are getting interested and getting themselves educated to support and help respond on sustainability. However, there are a lot of guidelines out there on sustainability, and the good news is pretty much most of those guidelines are free. So Bursa Malaysia has guidelines for listed companies, which non-listed companies can also use to respond on sustainability. That leverages what we call the GRI framework. On climate change and carbon, there's the Carbon Disclosure Project. There's also now the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures that Bank Negara and Securities Commission have given their commitment that the financial system should be implementing in Malaysia. Then we have the Sustainable Development Goals, of which the ministry hosted our first Sustainable Development Goals convention from the government, I think in November last year. So a lot of frameworks out there to guide you, and they give you step-by-step guidance and approach on how to respond. And of course, if you need to ask a specialist, there are specialists in the market, not only from my team, but from other organizations who would be happy to share perspectives with you as well. Okay, so it is an education process, but you need to start somewhere, and the good news is that there's lots of guidance to help you on this journey. And those are the key points I wanted to share with you for now, and happy to take some questions if there are some questions. Otherwise, we'll address more at the panel. Myra?
Hi, thank you, Andrew. That's interesting. I was listening to your talk, and it sounds like sustainability is also long-term efficiency for the company. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but before that, we have a few questions for you. We have 4 questions for you. The first is from Michael. How does one forecast/predict a sustainable innovation model? Surely it is not just limited to measuring sustainability by just financial return, although this seems to be the only key index seen. That's a really good question.
So if I understand the question, I would frame it around the types of metrics that we're looking at. So for a company, again, you need to understand and define what is it that you're trying to achieve as a company. A lot of discussions I have with board members nowadays is that actually you were not set up as a company just to deliver profit. There is a reason the company was set up, and we call that the purpose of the company. So what are the metrics around the purpose of a company? And traditional financial focus has obviously led to that being very focused on profit generation by a company. Not wrong, but we feel there should be additional metrics to say, well, really, what are the metrics to measure your purpose? There may be a bunch around social impact. So pretty much every company out there does an employee engagement survey now. Why do you do that? Is it just to see if your employees are happy? Are they engaged? Well, actually, that also links into financial return. More engaged employees generate better innovation, they generate better customer service, they collaborate better with each other, you have less cost from absenteeism, etc. So what are the right metrics that you should be thinking about as an organization beyond just traditional financial metrics to measure the overall health of the company? So I'm not sure if that answers you directly, Michael, but I see it just as a framework about measuring overall company performance, and agree it's not just financial return.
Thank you, Andrew. I think there is a lot of questions and a lot of struggles surrounding impact management, be it whether whether it comes to sustainability or whether it comes to other things. But I think what you said about knowing your purpose and knowing what you want to be a metric was a really good response. Thank you so much. We have another question from Frankie. Sustainability tries to secure present needs without compromising the future generations. How? Without giving up any of the 3 essential pillars: environmental protection, social development, and economic growth. It's a loaded question. What do you think, Andrew?
It's actually a very good question. And this is why sustainability can get quite complicated, and why you need multiple stakeholders to help address this issue, not just the corporate side, but the public sector and NGOs to come in to share their views. And this is where I talk about the paradigm shift from profit maximization to value optimization. Because if you're in a value optimization lens, yes, it helps you balance financial return, environmental impact, and social impact. And by doing that, it leads to more sustained, longer-term performance. So that's where your point about future generations come in. It's very much about creating the right balance. For companies that are very aggressive on a profit-taking perspective, we've seen from the average age of companies on stock exchanges now, the average age of companies has been coming down significantly. The number of companies that are 100 plus years old has dropped remarkably, and we have much younger companies now. So what happened to those older companies that went out of business? A lot of research will point to the fact that the focus that they had was very much on shorter term focus, profit taking. Again, a company does need to deliver financial returns, but our view is if you have been set up with a longer term mandate and your customer needs are still relevant 10, 20, 30 years in the future, there is still a reason for your business still to survive. But to get to 30 years, 40, 50 years down the road, you need to balance how you also deal with your environmental resources and social resources. You know, we all know that the cost of energy is potentially going to increase. The cost of water is heavily subsidized. How long can governments continue subsidizing that? Well, that needs to stimulate companies to think, what else can we do in our business model to manage those potentially escalating costs, which are to do with natural resource availability of human capital as well. Okay, so very complicated question, Frankie, but a good debate.
Perhaps we can address it later. It'll come up in the panel session later. Frankie, you should stay tuned. So, we have another question from Charmaine. Thank you so much. Charmaine's been asking a lot of questions for the past 4 days. So I'm just going to give a clap to that. So his question is, I understand the actual meaning of sustainability to corporates. It's more to like an IT company designing a product to enhance the school's technology rather than giving money to the school. So I think it's a point of clarification.
Yeah, good point, Charmaine. I'm glad you internalized that. I would say that there's actually nothing wrong about giving money to a school as part of a broader sustainability program, but that portion we would call more philanthropy. So you're correct in how you're positioning this. A company that is doing sustainability will be able to look at its own business model and say, what resources and expertise do we have to be able to also deliver positive social or environmental outcomes and have it also benefit us financially? So if I extend your example and say, where is the impact back to the company? For example, is it around the branding where more children are exposed to, okay, this is a company that actually engages with our community proactively and look at that positively? Or is it, for example, to do with saying that the IT company wants more IT skilled resources in the country and it doesn't have a specific type of that resource, and they're donating technology and potentially access to materials that help that capability develop in the country, such that that IT company then 15, 20 years down the line has access to the right capability to further grow its company.
Thank you, Andrew. We have 2 more questions. We have 2 more questions. This one's from Ellen. What is the biggest change observed in businesses in terms of their sustainability practices pre and post COVID-19? Or was there no change at all? It's a good question.
Good question. This is I guess it's still fairly fresh. We're still dealing with the COVID-19 situation. I say typically in crisis, we've done research on this not too long ago. I think my Australian colleagues looked at the whole NGO sector and donations to the NGO sector, and we found that in terms of financial crisis or crisis overall, donations to NGOs, charities are one of the first things to go, not just by companies, but also from citizens themselves. So that's something typically we see drop immediately is discretionary spend. The other impact obviously is the kind of lockdown work from home mode, so the ability to actively provide physical support to communities, deliver on environmental commitments, etc., has been limited. But if we talk about things where it's internalized in the company, whether it's things like energy efficiency, resource usage, how they're dealing with their own human capital, those are things that have continued, although obviously manufacturing, etc., has been on a smaller scale. But the big uptake that we've seen is a more conscious focus on wellness. And that links very much into the social dimension of sustainability when we talk about environment, social, and governance. So one economist has called this the kindness economy, which I like a lot, about being much more mindful to each other, also to your business partners. There are companies out there, there are SMEs that say, actually, we are not getting revenue coming in, so we can't afford to pay these invoices. And many of the larger companies are actually giving them delayed payment terms to help them out. And not only that, they're actually going proactively to engage with those companies and say, okay, businesses are starting to restart. What are the kind of joint projects we can work on together to actually help you get back on your feet? So that's something I think is a big positive, is the kindness economy and being much more mindful to each other. That does link back to the sustainability agenda, and it's about mutual benefit and value generation as opposed to the kill the competition philosophy.
Thank you. That's really beautiful. I think when everybody is drowning, when we know what it feels like when we're drowning, we try to help other people who are drowning as well. It's beautiful. We have a last question from Chatia. Are Malaysian conglomerates reducing carbon footprints of businesses through increasing carbon credits? It's a very good question.
So carbon credits, we've been in a funny stage, right? We had a carbon credit market. It absolutely tanked. But we're seeing some pickup in it again. For example, in Singapore, they've put a price on carbon. That will obviously flow into the balance sheets of companies. So I'm all for financial mechanisms because there should be a price to natural resources that we use. But carbon markets itself has been quite fickle so far. But there are positive signs as well of green shoots. For example, there was the SAREF conference in Sarawak in December, where Sarawak Energy announced its green energy credits, where companies could actually buy the green energy credits to offset. But just on the point of carbon credits as well, it is one part of the solution. The other part of the solution is actually reducing your carbon footprint. There will not be enough carbon credits in this world if everyone wants to continue the growth at all costs philosophy. It just doesn't exist, right? We don't have enough carbon credits and carbon sinks. So it's a two-stage response. There should be reduction of your environmental footprint, and then the areas you cannot reduce, that's when you look for the offset initiatives.
Thank you so much. It was a very cheeky question, Chatia, because there's been a lot of debate and chatter around carbon credits as well. But thank you so much to all of the, for everybody who's given the really good questions. I think that was a really good set. Thank you so much, Andrew, for your answers. And I'll be there later to introduce the rest of the speakers. In the meantime, I'm signing out from here. Thank you once again, Andrew. I think that was a very balanced, very neutral, very factual view of sustainability, and I'm so grateful to have been able to be exposed to that viewpoint. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no better way to wrap up CXO 2020 with a cool, disruptive innovation story of Malaysia's national icon. Our next speaker leads corporate strategy and risk management in Proton, focusing on long-term strategy and a business plan for a company, ecosystem, and industry. Yusri Yusoff's experience spans across several transformation programs in Proton. Today, Yusri will be sharing Proton's sustainability in the age of disruption. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Yusri Yusoff.
Thank you, Myra. Now, in the case of the whole spirit of this session is all about sustainability in the age of disruption, and I try to explain in the context of Proton. When we look into the whole concept or theme of this session, it's about disruption. And Proton, as an organization, we have been and will continue to be prepared in facing the challenges of disruption, but both planned and also forced. When we look into our business activities itself, we are actually facing what I call planned disruption. We need to exceed the expectations by the consumers, by the market. So that was the reason why we established or we have developed our turnaround and transformation program, which recently you see a lot of, I call it a planned disruption, coming through the strategic collaboration with Geely in Proton, the introduction of X70 as a technology landmark, the high proton adaptation on our PICE model is actually Persona, Iris, Izora, and Saga, as well as our rollout of our new brand strategy with the tagline of Inspiring Connections. But notwithstanding all our plan, there has always been the unplanned, or what we call the forced disruption. Everybody faced this issue of COVID-19, and the key thing is how are we going to implement the business recovery activities, and also moving forward, how do we embrace the new norms? This is part of our effort to resolve, recover, and reform post-COVID-19. Now, despite all this, we need to make sure that we are guided by policies, we are guided by rules and law, and in facing or in combating COVID-19, we are always referring to the National Security Council and the Ministry of Health requirement. By informing our turnaround and transformation program, we will always refer to the key policies of automotive industry, the National Automotive Policy, the new Industrial Master Plan, the 12 Malaysia Plan, as well as the big vision of shared prosperity. Now, this is a quick run through what Proton has been doing over the last many years. We know historically the Malaysian manufactured car project was initiated in 1979, and Proton eventually was incorporated in 1983, and the first model of Proton Saga was introduced on July 9, 1985. And the whole Proton program has been guided by the three national aspirations: to spearhead the automotive industrialization process, to acquire and upgrade technology and industrial skills, as well as to strengthen the international competitiveness. So over the last 37 years, Proton has actually introduced 27 models and sold about 4.5 million units of cars. Not too bad, not too great either. But what is more important is what we do in the next phase in order for us to face challenges. Now, Proton today is in a unique position as a national car company. We were the pioneer establishment and will continue to pursue the continuity of industrialization. But at the same time, we are also in the new venture with the global companies pursuing the advanced technologies. So it is a new set that is continuing our activities to deliver the expectations in the market as well as for the industry. And more importantly, we need to continuously engage and cooperate with the key stakeholders to make sure that all the activities that we are working on will be critical to pursue the future industry growth. And from the context of the post-partnership with Geely, immediately the management has put up a strategic aspirations that remain as our backbone. The key thing is we need to bring the company to be profitable again. We need to regain the leading position in Malaysia, and we need to become a top 3 player in the region. And with this, the company has actually put up 7 strategic thrusts with a key target to optimize the productivity of the company. And notwithstanding all our plan, we still need to be guided by the policies of the country to make sure that all activities are well aligned. Now, Geely came in with a certain credentials, but what is more prominent is the technology structure that Geely has to offer to the market. And we at Proton were trying to leverage the Geely intact technology structure. This is to provide the advanced technology offerings that is critically important to meet the market dynamics as well as to serve the new generation consumers. And the Proton X70, as it was launched in December 2018, has been deemed as the technology landmark for the transformation of the company. It has actually had an offering of advanced features and technical specifications that has exceeded the expectations of many consumers on Proton, as well as the consumers within the target group. Now, in addition to this, the upgraded models of the current range, the Persona, Iris, the Izora, as well as the Saga, has actually benefited in many ways. When X70 was launched, it has actually infused the market confidence. It has leapfrogged the competitive advantage and also becoming the impetus for Proton turnaround. But the more important angle is the benefit that has been translated to these current models, where these current models have been able to inherit the positiveness from the X70 through the technology advantages, increase of the local purchase value for manufacturing, as well as retain the high local content, which is very good to the industry. And pursuant to all our activities for the future growth of the company, our aim is to make our plant in Tanjung Malim as the world-class manufacturing activities as the impetus to the ecosystem development in the region. This will be supported by the next chapter of Proton, which is our new brand strategy that promote encouraging progresses and exciting way forward for the company. This is where we launched our new brand tagline, Inspiring Connections, that is being tagged along the Proton brand core value of innovative technology, reliability, and international. Now, we have had good result in 2019. The positive momentum was gained where we have achieved about 55.6% growth in Proton, where TIV was roughly or marginally grew by less than 1%. For so many years, we are behind our 100,000 unit mark, and in 2019, we were able to be we were able to achieve the 100,000 sales mark again. But more importantly, we have regained the confidence in the Malaysian market itself. We were able to regain the number 2 position that we have lost in the previous year. And more importantly is the company or the brand has becoming the most recommended brand in Malaysia, where the Net Promoter Index has gained at about 28%. And the key models, the X70 as well as the Saga, has been provided with a good recognition of the Malaysia Car of the Year in 2019 itself. So this year, the 2020 has actually set a promising path moving forward based on the calendar year 2019 interim results. We are in the 3rd year of our 10-year business plan. We have set the 2020 theme of sales and production breakthrough, and the whole company was highly motivated to continue pursuing the previous year's theme of quality excellence, covering the business, the product and services, as well as the internal process quality. However, there comes COVID-19. And as at today, or as at 4th of August, we know that the whole world is highly affected, more than 18 million cases confirmed. In Malaysia alone, we have actually reached the 9,000 confirmed cases. But the good news in Malaysia is 96% recovery has been achieved. So that's a commendable record. But in the case of Proton, Alhamdulillah, we were able to contain the situation, and as at today, there were 0 confirmed cases among our employees. This is something that we have been pushing to make sure that the safety and health of our employees are well preserved and are well taken care of. We also acknowledge that there are government measures and stimulus packages that have been launched, and we as a company in the industry will look into and will continue to look at the angle that we can leverage on, as well as our business partner who could leverage on the together with the company. Now, when we look into many references of how to combat or how to mitigate the COVID-19 crisis, we look into many angles, and one of them were what we call these 6 key areas or 6 key priorities that we need to mitigate. But as always, we look into protecting our employees and the people who buy our cars. Number 2, we look into the profitability and our cash position. We'll also look into defending against any revenue decline. We need to stop this as much as possible. And we need to stabilize our operations during the MCO, as well as performing the new normal when the MCO was lifted. We also look into conserving cash through a lot of cost saving and cost cutting activities. We need to make sure that we are able, or our cash position, our financial position is stable. And more importantly, we also look into opportunity on how we can leverage on the situation for the interest of Proton and also the interest of our people and our consumers. So based on all this holistic approach, we at the company of various background and various level has come up to 41 cross-functional teams. And these 41 cross-functional teams has been formed to focus on critical action plans and implementation activities to make sure that all these 6 priorities are being taken care of. We had the business recovery plan, who look into specific area of the impact analysis, the recovery strategies, as well as developing plan moving forward. And there's also a dedicated phases where we need to test this development plan against the usability or viability of the activities that we are putting in place. Now, when we look into what we have done, I would like to simplify this in 4 areas. The collective action and teamwork that we are putting in will always focus on, number 1, the safety of our people. So we look into a daily employee wellness. We update this on daily basis. If anybody were too busy early in the morning at 10:30, we will get a reminder to update our health position. Still, if someone forgot to do this at 4:30, there will be an alert to make sure that each employee will update their health conditions. We also made random calls to staff to make sure that everybody is in good condition, and safety policies and campaign were actually communicated constantly, guided by the advice from the Ministry of Health. The body temperature scanning and sanitizers are at all the entry touch points, not only into the company but also into each of the offices in the building. Number two is for us to look into how are we going to minimize disruption to our operations. There are daily part supply status that is being updated. There are recovery plans that was put in critical areas, and the work from home policies were also in place to make sure that while we are happily working at home, we need to also take care of our health and also our family at home. And more importantly, the post-MCO back to office policies, we have also put in clearly when people need to come, what they need to do when they are coming back to the company. And number three is about the business recovery. We are guided by our shareholders in terms of practices. We use what we call the CEO's checklist to overcome the impact of COVID-19. And the setting up of the cross-functional teams, as I mentioned earlier, will help to resume the operations and recover the losses during the MCO. And equally important is what is our responsibility to the society. This is where in Proton, during the MCO itself, we have allocated 50 units of Proton X70 to the Ministry of Health to help the activities of the frontliners in battling the COVID-19. Secondly, we had volunteers who have actually come to work during the MCO, specifically to produce the face shield and then supply to the required organization, the hospitals, the other government agencies, the local authorities who would require this supply of face shields to help them to battle the COVID-19 program. Now, this is the activities that we do. But more importantly as well, the second half of this year is the critical period for recovery, and this is the reason why we need to continue to explore opportunities to achieve better results than the original target. But the key programs are currently in place, and we will continue to see what program can be delivered at the right time and with the right activities in place. Now, the more important thing is we need to act differently under the new normals against the challenges of COVID-19. So we have put in a lot of aggressive actions that is required for us to for the post-MCO recovery, and we need to make sure that we'll be able to deliver the best result, and we need to embrace our core value of the company, which is TARI: teamwork, achiever, respect, and integrity. And this is where we push through a lot of recovery activities in terms of our operations, the sales, profitability, productivity, as well as the employee activities, and also quality and customer satisfaction. We have also put a lot of emphasis to recover the loss of time in terms of our project execution, covering all angles of the new models, the upgraded versions, as well as our manufacturing preparation activities. And always as important, the safety and health of our employees and our consumers remain the most important priorities that we need to put on. With that, I would like to thank everybody for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Encik Yusri, for the informative speech. We actually do have a few questions for you. Okay. The first one is from Angeline. How is the involvement of Geely impacted Proton's direction in terms of innovation and sustainability?
Well, Geely came in Proton as a shareholder with certain credentials, particularly on the technology, as well as the turnaround successes in their group of companies. Now, in terms of technology, what Geely has brought in Proton through the X70 was amazing. When the X70 was launched, it was deemed as the technology landmark into the Malaysian automotive industry. There's a lot of technologies that has been offered in terms of the convenience, in terms of the comfort, as well as in terms of performance. And the set of technologies and features that are offered in X70 is nowhere available for any vehicle of the price of this model. Secondly, in terms of operations, now we would like to understand a bit more how Geely actually turned around the company as well as the other companies within the group, and what we has adopted are mainly related to our operational best practices that we try to impute into our system in terms of quality, cost, as well as the working efficiency. But more importantly is how the management was able to bring together the various background of employees, the various background of expertise in putting through the turnaround activities that is currently still ongoing in Proton.
Thank you, Encik Yusri. As a Malaysian, it's very heartening to know that we are continuously innovating this pearl of a country's, it was our first country manufacturing, cars ever, and to know that we're still continuously innovating and staying sustainable is very heartwarming to me. We also have another question. This is from Sarah, and she asks, what are some of the most significant achievements and or adverse reception on X70?
Okay, now when we launched the X70 in December 2018, by that time we have a sum of interest in the forms of bookings that has come in, and what the model has brought into the industry or into the consumers were the advanced technologies, particularly on the connectivity features. This is where it was deemed as the talking car, the first talking car that come into the industry, and we see there's a lot of communication that has been mentioning about this talking car, the X70 as the talking car. The phrase high proton has becoming a good viral for the consumers, and we have actually used this high proton in many ways in our communication programs, as well as we have inherited the high proton features into our existing models, the Persona, Iris, Izora, as well as Saga. So this has given the better reception on the Proton brand itself. As we see, as much as people see the introduction of X70 has actually improved Proton's performance overall, but what we have also tried to inform that these current models, the Persona, Iris, Izora, and Saga, has improved, these models have inherited the benefits from the X70 technologies and features that has been offered. So it is good not only for consumers, but it has given an improvement to the operations, to the upstream operations, particularly our manufacturing operations as well as the supply chain.
I remember seeing a few videos of the capabilities of the X70 online, and I was thinking, you know what? This is a really, really good car to have during MCO. For those of you who are stuck alone in quarantine and like to talk, you can just go into your car, start it up, and talk to the car, Yes. I would love to be able to have that car. Sorry, so we actually have another question. This is from Ahmad, and he asks, as there are more and more environmentally friendly consumers around, what is Proton's plan in terms of product innovation to fit this new group of consumers? This is a very exciting question. Yusri?
This question looks long term, but what we would like to inform, the Proton cars has actually incorporated a lot of environmental friendly features in. For example, the 3R, recycle, reuse, and regeneration factors has been put in all our materials for so many years. Now, what's come into, for example, the X70, we have added on the features of the air purifier. This will give the driver and the occupants a more refreshing conditions in the car. And when we were facing the COVID-19 situation, what we have introduced with the guide by Geely is for us to put in the N95 filter. This will give assurance to our consumers that when they are out in our cars, they could feel safe and have a peace of mind every time, anytime when they use our car. So these are the things that we are pushing through. Now, of course, there are also questions about the new energy, about hybrid or electric vehicles. So these are ongoing studies that we do. We need to make sure that the investment that we are required to put into all these advanced features will be able to deliver what the consumers want in terms of the total package, including the price and maintenance cost of the vehicle itself.
That's really cool. So it's smell no evil, feel no evil. So that's going to be really interesting. We have a last question, and this is from John again. Thank you, John. You're a very, very active participant. How did Proton cope with the MCO, and what is the game plan from here onwards?
Well, to be fair, COVID-19 has actually hit everyone on earth. And the decision on MCO is done, we believe, in the interest of the safety and health of the people. That's what Proton put our emphasis on. From actually before the MCO, even before the MCO, when the news came out, we have had a dedicated team who on daily basis monitor and track the whereabouts of each of our employees, and the whole interest is the safety of our employees. This comes first from the beginning of the MCO news, of the COVID-19 news, until the beginning of the MCO and until today. The company, Proton, has always put the emphasis on the safety and health of our employee first. And in making sure that the safety and health of our employees are well tracked, we have also gather all our management team on a weekly basis. We monitor the activities that is going on related to our people, and what do we need to do as and when the MCO is lifted. So we cover 3 key areas. Number 1, the safety and health of our people. Number 2, what should we do in preparing our business operations as and when the MCO is lifted. So we look into our supply chain and the mitigation in making sure that the supply of components to our operations is not affected or is less affected. Number 2, we also look into the manufacturing readiness and also all the project activities that we need to make sure it will be less affected in terms of timing and also the requirements. And number 3, we look into how much we can do in supporting the initiatives by the government, in supporting the initiatives by the local authorities in combating the COVID-19. So we have done a lot of activities, and all these are being done throughout the MCO period. On daily basis, we work, and I believe that everybody, many people in other companies are also doing this. We work day and night, and we don't even realize what day it is as long as the workstation is just in front of us in the computer or over the handphone. So we put all our effort to make sure that the company continue to operate, but more importantly, our people is in a good and healthy condition.
Thank you so much, Encik Yusri. You brought up a really, really good point. We have all been hit by this pandemic, but it's very, very good to know that Proton has a game plan that both takes care of the individuals in the country, their own employees, but also prepping for production again once everything clears up. Thank you so much, Encik Yusri. I will be joining you later to introduce the next speaker, but I just want to say thank you so much, Encik Yusri, and thank you so much, everyone, for your wonderful questions.
Thank you.
Thank you once again, Yusri. Coming up next is the final industry panel discussion of CXO 2020. At this panel, we are honored to be joined by 3 sustainability leaders who will be discussing and sharing insights on extending business lifespan and finding opportunities amidst the speed of industrial revolution. Our first guest panelist is the Senior Managing Director and Head of Group Sustainability at CIMB. Aside from being the leading Southeast Asian universal bank, one of the largest Asian investment banks, and one of the world's largest Islamic banks, Luan Siah is responsible for transforming CIMB into a leader in sustainable finance and responsible banking in Asia. Our second guest panelist is the founder of the Holstein Milk Company, a company that has revitalized Malaysia's dairy industry since 2008. Mr. Loy Tuan Ee, which has no prior experience in the agricultural sector, demonstrated that innovation and a willingness to take risks can lead to operational excellence and business success. Mr. Loy and his company is now a force to be reckoned with within the fresh milk category and a key player in Malaysia's aspirations to be self-sufficient and a hub for innovation and production. And our third guest panelist is Head of Group Sustainability at Sime Darby Plantation, the largest producer of certified sustainable palm oil globally. Rashid Anwaruddin has spoken at various international public forums covering areas such as human rights, social performance, deforestation, sustainable supply chains, smallholder, and transparency and disclosures. Lastly, but not least, our panel moderator is Andrew Chan, Consulting and Sustainability Climate and Change Leader of PwC Malaysia. You might have remembered him as our first keynote speaker of the day. This is definitely a power-packed panel. If you guys have any comments or any questions or any impressions, please do leave it in the comment section in the chat box below. Comment section below, or in the chat box below. So I'm going to hand it over to Andrew. The panel is getting ready and we'll be back in just a short while, so please stay tuned.
Well, welcome back, and welcome to my panelists. Thank you so much for making the time available to share your views with us this morning. So we have 45 minutes for the panel, so we're going to jump into the questions without much ado. And just to note that we will also take questions from the audience. We will try and get through as many as we can, just so that you hear the perspectives from the panel here. So if I just ask a question to all 3 of you first, just to set context to our audience out there. But first of all, could you just explain how sustainability is considered within your respective organizations? For example, is it fully integrated all the way through the management team and operations, or is it considered an additional element as part of your operations? Let's start with Luan.
Hi, thanks, Andrew. So sustainability is part of our core strategy. As part of our Forward 23 strategy, we've got 5 strategic pillars, and sustainability is one of the 5. So it's as important as customers, as our people, as technology. So it's right up there. It's not something that we do on the side. It is also fully integrated into all aspects of our business, not just what we do ourselves, but throughout the operations, as well as in the business that we do with our clients. So this is something that it cannot be done on the side. It needs to be really part of the strategy in order for it to really work.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from Mr. Loy.
Yeah, I think in our context as hosting milk company, ours is basically should be viewed as a fully integrated dairy company. In our business, we actually do dairy farming, and then we also go on to produce most important safe and nutritious food as well. And along the line, I think we also need to do brand building to get the Malaysian to resonate our brand on who we are. And I think the sustainability aspect of it is like all across the whole chain of our value chain that we will want to continue to create value and ensures that everything that we do it in a sustainable manner. I think that's our objective, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Loy. And finally, Rashid for Sime Darby.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So, from our context, we at Sime Darby Plantation, we actually operate in a very interesting industry. So we are the largest producer of certified sustainable palm oil in the world, and palm oil itself is an industry which has a lot of scrutiny from all of our stakeholders. But what's more important for us, is that all of our stakeholders demand us to be responsible in all of our operations, within our operation itself and throughout our global supply chain. And the most important thing for us is basically the demand of sustainable palm oil from our customers. So our customers are asking for it. Our shareholders have started to start asking about how we are embedding and implementing responsible agriculture practices, and also our other stakeholders as well, such as the NGOs, even our employees as well.
Okay, fantastic. Maybe I can just come back to Mr. Loy and then Luan, just on that final point that Rashid shared. What is actually driving the consideration of sustainability in your respective businesses?
I think for hosting milk company, our key sustainability driver is the ability to produce more fresh milk. So I think that remains something that is a vast opportunity for us in Malaysian context, because not many people realize that Malaysia don't really have much of a fresh dairy ingredient. So if you go to supermarket, you realize that a lot of it are still imported and either being reconstituted from powders and things like that. So I think that is something that we think that we want to continue to focus on to ensure that we did it sustainably and producing more fresh milk from Malaysia. Yeah.
Okay, so very much the purpose of the company is integrated with sustainability.
Yeah, correct. I think that's our purpose. Our mission is to make sure that we continue to produce more fresh milk for fellow Malaysian. Yeah, that's basically our mission. Yeah.
Thank you. And Luan for CIM.
So for us, the initial trigger, and so before that, we'd been doing kind of CSR and philanthropy for many years through CIMB Foundation. But when we talk about sustainability in the business sense, we're really talking about, what are the products and services you have in everything that you do? Are you being fair to people? Are you being fair to customers, to suppliers, and to the environment, right? So in this more holistic context, the initial trigger for sustainability was really our foreign shareholders, especially the European investors, institutional investors, and they were asking us hard questions about, what are our lending policies? What do we take into account? So that was the main trigger that got everyone's attention, including the CEO and the board. And from there, we started, asking around. So we did a materiality study. We started asking our suppliers, asking our employees, and hey, it turned out it was actually something that all our employees wanted as well, and that is one of the reasons why it's so integrated into our strategy now. And of course, the customers. And this was only about 2 years ago, and since then, we've started taking it really seriously, and we've even changed our company tagline. So our company is now about helping customers and society. Not about being the most profitable bank in the world, although we should.
Getting there. An additional KPI. So if I could ask the next question again to all of you. The earlier topic that I shared was around innovation and sustainability. Could you share how your business has seen innovations because you've been taking on a sustainability lens. Let's start with Rashid and then work towards Luan.
Okay, so I mean, if you look at the industry itself, there is a lot of challenge around the issue of deforestation and the sort of allegations that the industry has around issues of deforestation within industry. So moving on from now, with the additional requirements and additional sort of tools and methodologies that we need to put in place to sort of expand into new areas for to get more oil. One of the things which our management has sort of acknowledged is that it's going to get more and more difficult for us to do expansion. So one of the key sort of things which we've sort of moved on from now is that we've moved from land bank expansion sort of mode into efficiency mode to try and get as much oil as possible from existing land that we have. So one of the key things that we've sort of developed in the last few years is essentially higher yielding planting materials, and these are being developed internally by our R&D team, which applies genomics technology. And what we are seeing is that we can get more oil from our existing land up to 10 to 15%. And the sort of more oil that we can get from our existing land, it reduces the sort of stress that that is on the company to expand into new land to actually get more oil. So those are some of the one example of innovation that has been driven because of sustainability challenges.
Okay. There's another one I've heard you share before also about satellite technology. Do you want to just briefly mention what you've been doing there?
So another sort of issue that is quite hot within this region is basically the issue of fire and haze. So there's a lot of allegations around the palm oil industry being a large contributor to to the fire and haze, especially within this region, right? So one of the things that we've actually sort of innovated ever since the 1980s. It started off with number one, we have a zero burning policy since the 1980s, and then because of that we've implemented infrastructure in place, putting in place emergency response teams on the ground if there's any fires, and quite recently in the past 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, we've implemented what we call as hotspot monitoring technology, where we utilize satellite monitoring systems to sort of monitor our land bank across the world, and 5 kilometers outside of our land bank as well, to monitor any hotspots, which may occur in our sort of operations. So what that enables us to do is to monitor the effectiveness of our zero burning policy, and in the event there are any fires, I will get notified immediately, and what's going to happen is then the estate manager on the ground would need to then do an on-the-ground investigation within 24 hours to see if there's any fires there and to take corrective action. So, and all of this is actually, we've made it publicly available. So any hotspots which are identified within our operations, we've put it on our website. We have a hotspot monitoring website, and then it says whether a hotspot has been identified and sort of details of our investigation on the ground, just to ensure transparency of our operations.
Fantastic. Now let's hear from Mr. Loy. So a lot of people say, well, sustainability and big innovations are only the realm of really large companies with a Sime Darby or CIMB, but yourself as an entrepreneur, as SME business owner, I think you've also introduced a lot of innovation into your business as well, from taking a sustainability lens.
I think for us, I think sustainability in dairy farming goes beyond just producing the fresh milk. Number one, I think we view, because the dairy farming in the tropics, in fact, it's very, very challenging. So for us, we begin with to have to find the right genetic, for example, for us to do our dairy farming. Now, I think in terms of cow comfort, is also another things that we are looking at, that we wanted to do it in a more sustainable manner, that instead of, for example, the cows are traditionally farmed on the concrete flooring, for example, and now we introduce compost barn, for example. So what we're trying to achieve really, because our cow poo a lot, there's a problem as well. And we need to work very hard to ensure that that a zero discharge farming is also important for us as well. So this is where I think a lot of effort been put in a sense that how do we actually manage those waste and have them created, become a wealth for us, for example. So those manures are all being composted along the way, and they're broadcast back to the field, and then we do vermiculture, for example, and to ensure that all these have been converted into a very organic fertilizer, and in return produce a very healthy grass and productive pasture to in return feed our cows. So I think you can imagine. I think we spend a lot of efforts to ensure that a few hundred acres of our paddocks are all being irrigated through a few 100,000 liters of those slurries that comes out, and you're actually giving back to the soil, not just taking out things from the soil. But I think we need to learn how to coexist with the nature in a sense that today, if you want to find a worm on the soil, you probably have had a hard time to go and dig around. You probably can't find them. So I think these are all the nature that we're reintroducing back, to make sure that our soils are healthy, and then continue to produce a healthy, a good quality grass for our dairy animals as well. Yeah.
So just a quick follow-up to that. So some people will say taking natural approaches costs more money. From your experience, does it cost more money or versus chemical fertilizers?
I think in our context, the efforts that we put in over the years, I think is very rewarding. First begin with is, let's say, for example, we could have used maybe for the efforts that we put in all the compost fertilizer, the manure slurry to irrigate our grass and all this sort of thing. Have we don't do things like that, I think we run a brief number. We probably have to use about 1.3 million kgs of chemical fertilizer just to make sure that we get the grass out of it. So in this case, we not only save money, I think in terms of, by reducing the chemical fertilizer, you also reduce all those chemical leaching, which is very toxic to the soils as well. So I think that is how we actually interpret. I don't think so that, if you want to do it sustainably in our context, we are actually saving money rather than costing more. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, Luan, finance provider, how have you innovated your products and services?
So products and service, on the products and services front, which is, I guess, the usual thing when you talk about, innovation, we work really closely with our business units to try and understand, what do our stakeholders want? What are the issues that they're trying to solve, and what are they trying to achieve? And through there, we've managed to launch quite a number of products. So for example, one of the things that we've done, I think, starting beginning of this year, is what we call sustainability-linked loans. That's for businesses, essentially for businesses that have that want to do sustainability, and we could agree a number of targets with them. And if they achieve those targets on a year-on-year basis, they get an interest rate a rebate or a reduction from us. So in that way, so in that way, we we encourage our customers to become better together with us. Now on the individuals front, we also try and encourage our individual customers to live greener. For example, we've got better rates for any green or hybrid car that you buy, or if you've got a GBI certified house, there's a discount on the loan as well. So yeah, we're trying to do a lot of things. We're launching a responsible card as well. So yeah. Now, however, I would say that on the product front, service front, yes, but also internally, when Andrew asked me about innovation, I was thinking, okay, products and services, but internally we've changed almost every aspect of our business, from how we look at our suppliers, how we evaluate our supply chain, to how we conduct meetings. In almost everything that we've done, we've had to rethink how we do things. Yeah, and actually one I wouldn't say innovation, but it's very, very different. When we look at sustainability at CIMB, we share with the other banks. We share with the rest of the industry. It is a pre-competitive space because we're not doing this for selfish gains. We're doing this for the wider society and for future generations. So I don't know if you count that as an innovation, but to us, that's very different.
Fantastic. So partnerships is a big one there, and you've got your Cooler Earth Summit coming up again this year, fairly soon. So let's. I mean, you've talked about the products and services, so that's quite clear, and I saw interest from Mr. Loy and Rashid. So if they haven't, they might be looking looking for a conversation. But what specifically have you seen in terms of business benefits? So, for example, for Luan, have you seen the actual increase in new customers coming to CIMB? How has it impacted you on a business perspective?
So when we launched sustainability-linked loans, we had a lot of interest from customers, not just to get the rebate, but a lot of them were very curious about, what is this about? What do we actually need to do? Is it going to cost a lot of money? Exactly the questions that you asked. Yes. So there are a lot of new conversations that we are managing to have with our clients about this, and for a lot of them, it's very surprising because, hey, you're a bank, and why do you care about sustainability?
Thank you. And Mr. Loy, could we hear how you've seen business benefits from this?
I think in terms of how we actually perceive sustainability, I think especially when I think relate to brand building beyond product, I think it is not just the aesthetic part of it. It is also how the consumer perceive our brand. So I think that is very important that we must be seen to be a responsible company on how we actually produce our product. With all these animal rights and all this, how these cows have been treated and animals are treated, your employees and along the value chain. I think that is something that we are very conscious that we must be able to withstand that kind of scrutiny as years goes by. So I think I think the sustainability focus is something that we will continue to take it very seriously in the way that we run the business. Yeah.
I think you've also mentioned that you feel that the milk tastes better coming from happier cows. I mean, there is a chocolate company out there that also says happy cows has better tasting chocolate. So I'm pretty sure all of us are also consumers of your product. But have you done taste tests to say consumers are actually coming to you because of the taste?
No, Andrew, I think that question is very true. We seriously believe that, first to begin with, you must have a happy employees that looks after your cow. And then those dairy animals has to be very happy. The cow have to be happy, honestly, because the physiology of the cow, if they are not healthy, for example, they will never actually give you a cup of yummy milk. So I think that is something that in our farm, I think the passions of looking after, make sure that our cow comforts are there, and a healthy and happy cow naturally produce a better milk, in the sense that if you say, in terms of milk composition, the higher fat content, the higher protein content, as a result, the consumer can taste the difference, then you have a happy customer as well. So I think that is very important, that along the chain that everybody is happy to ensure that we get a cup of fresh, yummy milk. Yeah.
I think my youngest son is one of your favorite
Hey,
customers.
thank you.
Rashid, for Sime Darby?
Yeah, for us, when it comes to sustainability, I mean, we see that as a central pillar of the sort of product that we sell. Essentially, we're a company which, at the end of the day, we grow, produce, and sell palm oil. And the way that we sort of position ourselves as the largest sustainable palm oil producer in the world is that, we sell to our customers, responsibly produced palm oil. And that, for us, that is how we are differentiating ourselves. So if you look at most of the large customers, most of the large buyers of palm oil globally now, they all of them have very strict guidelines around, responsible sourcing. and the way that we see it, it sort of differentiates ourselves from from our competitors.
So, in the early stages where we saw first movers to sustainable palm oil, they might say this slight price premium, but nowadays the producers say they don't get a price premium. So is there actual business benefit to you from producing and going to the cost of going for RSPO certification when some might say we could sell to India or China non-certified palm oil and still get the same price? So are you actually seeing financial and business benefits from doing that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if the question is, does implementing sustainability cost more? It does. But that's a very narrow viewpoint of it. If you look at it from a wider viewpoint, the sort of business benefits that we get, on top of some premiums that some of our customers give us, is the longer term relationships that we build with our customers. And with the longer term relationships, we can then start developing longer term partnerships and sort of longer term solutions with them, where we can then supply to them what we call specialty products, so things which are of higher value. And the way that you see it is, the sort of customers that we have globally, sustainability is like this is like hygiene. You need to have it, and then once you have sustainable, responsibly produced palm oil, then we can talk about how we can have better relationships to build higher value products together.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask one additional question and then see what questions we have coming in from the audience as well, just to give a chance to field some of those questions. I think if we start with Luan, what has been the actual response been to your sustainable products and services? So I saw Ia's pick up just now. We talked about the sustainable linked loans and reducing interest rates. Have you had much uptake on that, obviously without disclosing commercial information?
Yeah, so I'm a bank, so I can't talk about any of our customers, but let's just say, yes, a lot of interest. Look out for some announcements coming out soon. I think that's all I can say.
Okay, I'm going to assume the announcements come at the Cooler Earth Summit then.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew. That reminds me. Yes. So there will be a couple of announcements at the Cooler Earth Summit. So it's open to our clients and to the public as well. So especially for businesses, please do come and join us, Cooler Earth CIMB.
Okay. Little plug to continue the sustainability agenda. So, Mr. Loy and Rashid, as finance takers then, from the likes of whether it's CIMB or others, what have you seen? And Rashid, you mentioned also investor pressure earlier and interest. What have you seen so far from the finance community? This is something a lot of companies around the region are saying. Well, we're hearing finance companies are willing to give us better deals and invest for more sustainable companies. But are we really seeing that happen? Mr. Loy, start with you. Are you actually seeing that demand materialized into action?
Yeah, I think the first time I come to heard about this ESG was about 2 years ago as well. The first thing, my reaction when those financial investor was evaluating us, I say, what is this ESG? I got no clue what it is. And then we only began to realize that I think going forward, any companies that, with the view that if you wanted to, as you grow, these are something that the environmental, social governance things that you can't ignore it, this fund that comes in, they want to make sure that they invest in a company that's socially responsible, farming in such a way that in a sustainable manner, and you have a good governance. So I think it goes beyond just making money for yourself. You also need to be mindful that what are you impacting your communities around you. So I think all these things are stacks out, and if you want to look at, I think these finance people will be able to influence a lot of decision on how this company need to be run, because otherwise, you might not get funding from them if you don't, those boxes don't tick off. The workers' welfare, for example, animal welfare. It's beyond. In our case, I think I think after we learned that we actually make very conscious effort, and some of it we actually measure it, how we need to do it to prepare ourselves in the years to come when we actually, especially consumer, if you are perceived a brand that are irresponsible, consumer have got a choice. I don't have to buy a fresh milk, I don't have to buy a yogurt, for example. So I think all these things we have to be very mindful, and I think we have to really address those things and to make sure that the brand resonate well with our value as well. Yeah.
So it's a case of listening to what your stakeholders are asking for and then putting the right metrics in place so that you can share and engage with them.
I think for stakeholders, I think whatever our investors are looking at, for example, I think there are a couple of things that they will measure. First, of course, you're looking at the investment return, but there's only one part of it. As how the company treat the other people along your value chain, for example, whether it's your employees or the communities that you're in. I think, for example, we go into do rural manufacturing, for example, because our farms are isolated. We wanted to create opportunity for the rural people. And those processing plant that we put out, if I tell you about Muazzam Shah, I think maybe 9 out of 10 never heard where is this place, in Pahang. So by doing things like that, I think it also gives the rural people more opportunities, a high value job, a QA manager, a technician, or an engineering, for example. So I think all these things, I think the stakeholders wanted to see that, the companies are responsible. You're also creating value for others as well, not only just a financial return. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Rashid, given Sime Darby's largest producer of certified palm oil, does that mean your cost of financing is like one of the lowest around?
Depends, because I guess for us, the way that we see it when it comes to our engagements, especially with the financial sector, what started off probably like around 10 years ago, the sort of discussions that we've had with the sort of shareholders and investors, it started off with the European and Americans, and they've started off with asking the very basic questions around our ESG performance. And throughout the years, the sort of maturity of the sort of discussions that we've had with them have been in such a way that we can then have specific, detailed conversations with them, with the analysts, about specific, detailed sort of issues. And what we've seen the trend recently is that the sort of discussion has sort of moved to the sort of regional financial service providers as well. So your CMBs, your Maybanks have also started to sort of ask similar questions and have similar conversations. And what we're also seeing now is that there are a lot more sort of products which are coming into place. Things like your sustainability linked loans that you mentioned, sustainability bonds, green bonds, those sort of things.
And could you just touch upon the pension funds, because you got very big long-term investors. Are they also putting in requirements specifically, or are they yet to kind of?
Yeah, for the local pension funds, my understanding is that they already have teams in place to start looking into these sort of ESG related issues, and then for the past 2 to 3 years, we've already started very detailed engagements with them. And whenever there are any sort of issues which come out in the press, or any sort of stakeholder who alleges some issues within our operations, they are one of the sort of stakeholders who have been engaging with us to understand our position more.
Thank you, Rashid. And Luan, let's just close off with you. Back to the finance provider.
Yeah. So you know what Rashid said about the investors asking questions about what's going on. It is a general thing that we are seeing across all investors and banks. And so far, so for example, the large funds like Co-op PPF, Khazanah, they have signed on to the Principles for Responsible Investment, the PRI, just as we have signed up to PRB, Principles for Responsible Banking. Now, that is good, but that is
globally, we actually have a large smallholder program. So, and the context of smallholder sort of differs from country to country. So, just a bit to bring a bit of context. we operate our upstream operations in Malaysia, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, and Solomon Islands. And for example, the sort of context in Papua New Guinea is different. So we actually have certified all of the 20,000 plus smallholders to the RSPO, the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil Certification, and we actually have a dedicated supply chain that goes into Europe, such that any sort of premiums that we get in Europe can then be trickled down to the smallholders in Papua New Guinea. In Indonesia, for example, we also have around 20 to 30,000 smallholders there as well that we actually are managing the operations for them from one extreme to another. So one of them is they actually have the land and we actually run the operations for them, or to the other extreme where they have the land and they run it and we provide capacity building for them. And we also have a program in place to get them certified to the RSPO, and we're around 50% to 60% there. In Malaysia, it's a bit different because of the way that the industry is structured. So in Malaysia itself, we deal a lot more with traders when it comes to engaging with smallholders. So we actually have a program in place which we've started to roll out last year, where we engage with traders who bring in third-party fruits into our mills across Malaysia, and we actually then help them in their process of certification to the Malaysian Sustainable Palm Oil standards. And what we do is basically we bring the Malaysian government, and then we also then provide them sort of awareness raising around this. So it's a lot of engagements with the traders to try and bring their the sort of smallholders which they collect the sort of fruits from, to sort of raise awareness and engage.
And Mr. Lloyd, just coming to you, I know that it wasn't directed at you, but you were sharing with us earlier how you engage and food production, feeding your workers on your farms, etc. Would you like to just share how you guys go about that as well?
Yeah. I think in our case, as I said, the employees are very important assets to our operation. And I used to challenge my team, I think we ourselves are farmers. And for example, in our farm, we have a factory, we have our own canteen, for example, and we give a subsidized meal for lunch or dinner for RM1. So I used to talk to my team. I say, we are farmer proper. I think, and we have the land, we have a lot of organic fertilizer. We should be able to farm a decent amount of vegetable that our own workers can eat it, And then we have a lot of ponds and reservoir that who's stopping us from raising some fish, and then those fish can actually be served in our canteen. So we have a team of different groups that, everybody got to royong a bit, pay a bit of attention, and then you not only that, reduce the cost of the feeding, but you also have a very healthy food for the employees as well. So I think these are all the little things that you add up. I think in a way that, you have a happy employee. That's very important, yeah.
Just as you have happy cows as well, and happy customers.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us towards the end of the panel. I'm going to ask each of you just to give any final thoughts on not necessarily sustainability and innovation, but just final thoughts around the topic of sustainability. I'd like to thank all of you again for your time here and sharing your different perspectives. We had finance provider from Luan, we had an SME owner in Mr. Loy, and Rashid, obviously a very big listed company. But it's good to see that sustainability doesn't just sit with the big companies, but can also deliver benefits to the smaller companies. And comforting to hear your perspectives that investors, finance providers, whilst before we were hearing a lot coming from the West, increasingly the regional FIs are getting more and more active on this and engaging and willing to give better cost of financing. If you don't find it, you know who to speak to. If you're not sure where to find her, you find her at the Cooler Earth Summit next. So with that, thank you. And just closing statements. Let's start with Rashid and then work to Luan.
Sure. I guess when it comes to sustainability, I mean the most important thing is understand how it impacts your business, and listen to your stakeholders, because at the end of the day, if it impacts your business and it's material to your business, usually you'll find out that you are already doing something internally about it. It's just not called sustainability.
Mr. Loy?
Now, I think in our context, I think we are farmers, and weathers are really, really important to us. So I think the climate change is very, very real. You know, over the years we experienced there are seasons that we are very, very dry. We don't have enough water, and then when it rain a lot until you get flood and things like that. So I think this climate change is really real, and I think the financial investor or the consumer alike, I think they are able to play a role in a sense that, you know, whether how the company do the business, what kind of value do they have, are they responsible, are they not responsible? I think all these consumers have the power to actually continue to ensure that, you know, companies that do business have to do it in a sustainable manner. Whether it's whatever industry they're in, I think that is something that the people are able to contribute to create a better world. That our grandchildren, you know, when we are not around, you know, they inherited this world. So you make sure that they can continue to have a good earth to live with.
Okay, thank you for that. And finally, Luan.
Well, Mr. Loy and I are kindred spirits. Yeah, so, I mean, as he said, climate change is real. It is it is happening right now. Entire countries are being flooded. People are losing their homes. There's also a lot of injustice and inequality in this world. And all those are big issues, and one person can't solve it. One business, one government, one country can't solve it. But everybody needs to get into that mode of let's work together. It's such a big problem. There are so many big problems, but they're not insurmountable if we all play our part. And, you know, it's such a daunting topic, but just start somewhere. As a company, just start, for example, talking to your stakeholders or doing reporting. As an individual, there's so many things you can do too.
Thank you. So that speaks to Hafiz's question earlier, which was, where do I start, right? It's starting somewhere, anywhere is better than just waiting and not starting. So I think that's nicely summed up. So I'd like to thank all of you again. Thank you for your time and your open and honest sharing. And thank you to the staff for organizing this and focusing on this topic of sustainability. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope that you have enjoyed that panel discussion as much as I did. I think it's really, really great that we're having a conversation about sustainability in businesses. And I think throughout the day today, we've managed to debunk a lot of myths and preconceptions about sustainability, as well as beginning to understand that sustainability is really a symbiotic relationship between, you know, different stakeholders. And I think the parting messages coming from the panel, members of the panel, is amazing. As much as possible, what we can do is be aware of the opportunities that are around, as well as do what we can in order to make our businesses more sustainable. So thank you once again to Andrew, to Luan, to Mr. Loy, and to Rashid for such a great and insightful discussion, for big businesses as well as for small businesses starting to think about sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying with us until the end. And as I've mentioned earlier, we're giving away 4 exciting prizes each day. All you need to do is to complete a short survey that will auto-pop as you exit WebEx. Your feedback means a lot to us as we continue in providing a great experience for you at our future events. We will also be contacting today's winners later this afternoon to your registered email or mobile number for the arrangement. Ladies and gentlemen, Star Media Group CXO 2020 is a wrap. Thank you very much for your participation in these 4 days, and thank you so much for I'm so thankful that I was here on this journey with you guys for 4 days. If I've done anything or said anything wrong, I apologize. And I'm also very, very thankful to all of our members of audiences who have participated within our panel discussions and been actively asking questions during our keynote speakers' speeches. We hope that you have enjoyed and benefited from the program. And most importantly, we hope you are also driven to be a part of the industry components in engineering and X Factor for a business to win in the age of disruption. On behalf of Star Media Group, I'd like to thank our sponsors and partners once again for joining us in making this program a success. Our strategic investment partner, Malaysia Investment Development Authority, MIDA, Exabyte partner, IBM, Terabyte partner, AVM Cloud and Integrated Global Solutions, Gigabyte partner, Tata Consultancy Services, Megabyte partners, Schneider Electric, Virtual Roundtable partner, ServiceNow, exclusive briefing partner, Privasia, our knowledge partners, IDC, Kanta, and PwC, our mobile messaging partner, Sandquick, e-learning partner, e-learning Minds, and our webinar partner, Cisco. They've all been a part of creating this wonderful 4-day informative program for all of you, and I'm so grateful that we've also been able to learn from them. Before you continue with the rest of today, just a gentle reminder to help us in completing the short survey as you exit WebEx, and you will again win a chance to win one of the final 4 exciting prizes. Your feedback means a lot to us, and we want to continue learning from it, and we want to continue growing and improving. If you require any assistance from us, do contact our events crew at events@thestar.com.my. Once again, my name is Myra, and I'm signing out. Thank you, and we look forward to hosting you again in the next Star Media Group event. Stay safe, stay innovative, and stay disruptive.
The promise of EcoStruxure Microdata Center from Schneider Electric. The support you need to ensure worry-free transactions.
Welcome to vibrant Malaysia. Strategically located in the heart of Asia with links to all parts of the world. Headed by a constitutional monarch. Governed by parliamentary democracy, where general elections are held every 5 years. The country enjoys decades of stability with the benefits of a broad-based economy powered by the private sector and a pro-business government. It's always summer in Malaysia, a country blessed with abundant natural resources and more. While rapidly developing, we continue to preserve our land, environment, heritage, and values. They are all here in Malaysia, a country of many colors, races, and cultures. Selamat datang. Welcome to Malaysia. Malaysia has transformed from a country dependent on agriculture and primary commodities to an export-driven economy, spurred by high technology, knowledge-based and capital-intensive industries toward a high-income nation. Many international corporations have made Malaysia their highly competitive offshore base. To date, more than 5,000 international companies from over 80 countries have established their regional and global operations in Malaysia. Companies in the manufacturing and services sectors continue to expand and diversify their operations. The combination of a stable political environment and a government that is responsive to private sector needs and supports and facilitates business. Malaysia's developed infrastructure has provided the requisite competitiveness to the business community. The Kuala Lumpur International Airports provide excellent facilities. The airports can accommodate up to 17 million passengers. And more than 12 million tons of cargo per year. In addition, 6 other international airports are strategically located to serve the regional needs. And the 7 major ports ensure the efficient movement of cargo, as well as facilitate international trade. The improved rail system and the network of expressways ensure easy access to and from airports, seaports, and urban centers. The government ensures that energy needs are adequately met, while broadcasting and telecommunications requirements are being served by the latest digital and fiber optics technology. For banking and financial services, local and foreign banks offer comprehensive and competitive packages. $11 million trainable and educated Malaysians support industry and trade, and annually, about 250,000 young Malaysians enter the workforce. Many English language-based colleges, universities, technical and vocational institutions ensure the continuous supply of manpower needs. Malaysia's geographical location makes the country a strategic base for exports to the Asia-Pacific markets. Malaysia provides access to not only the ASEAN market, with a population of 600 million, but to a market of more than 3 billion people created by the various trading arrangements with the world's most vibrant nations. Living in Malaysia. But doing business in Malaysia is not all work. The country offers good living in the midst of a clean and green environment. Modern housing, international schools, healthcare of international standards. Add to that the warmth and hospitality of Malaysians. Things to do during leisure. Great food everywhere. Fun places to be. Make Malaysia a home away from home. Selamat datang. Welcome to Malaysia, your profit center in Asia.
Some people are calling this the new normal, but there's nothing normal about it. As the world's businesses begin to reopen, the question is, what can we learn from this? Perhaps today isn't a restart, it's a rethink. A time to take the things that are working and apply them to the new jobs that need to get done. Today, businesses are staying open in a world that feels closed. With the IBM Cloud, retailers can keep systems up as millions of orders move online. Data is being protected against new security risks. So at leading hospitals, private information can stay private, even while doctors are caring for patients from home. Businesses are being more responsive. With the help of scalable solutions on the IBM Cloud, financial advisors can process bank transfers remotely, securely. Today, supply chains are getting more intelligent, helping ship our produce, stock our stores, and fill our tables. Remote work is working smarter with IBM Watson, helping employees stay more productive and making parents even more proud. Customers are getting answers faster. With Watson Assistant, wait times are being cut from hours down to minutes. And companies are managing millions of calls, texts, and chats. Today, we are speeding our research and our recovery with help from all the developers who are answering the call. Today, we are rethinking how business moves forward, how the world moves forward. So let's get to it. Let's put smart to work.
Certainty for where it's most vital. That's the promise of EcoStruxure Microdata Center from Schneider Electric. The support you need when there's no room for downtime.